Hello, let's see. We're setting up. I don't know if this is going. Okay, there you go. So yes, we are here now with Robert Zeigler. Thank you everyone for joining us here at West End Power. And thank you so much, Robert, because we didn't have several run-ins that it just didn't happen. So I want to thank you for taking your time out to join us today. And so being as though we were talking and everything, and I told you a little bit about West End Power. If you don't have any questions, we can literally get started.
Yeah, I'm good to go whenever you are.
Okay, cool. So now, Robert, can you tell our audience exactly who are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Robert Zeigler. I've lived in a little town called Millheim for 11 years now. I've had to do math for a second. And I've been on local government for about 4 years. I've been in the state college, Penn State area for about almost 20 years. But yeah, I've lived out in rural PA pretty much my entire life.
Sorry.
Okay, there it is. No, that's okay. It's good. So, I kind of understand rural PA. I am a Democrat. Some people would label me as a progressive. I just think it's human decency. I've been in local government for 4 years. We've gotten faster speeds than Penn State has out where there's Amish buggies out in my neck of the woods. So Millheim and Penns Valley region has really fast internet speeds. We've done solar. We're one of the few municipalities that has solar cover all of our electrical use for borough-owned properties. We actually saved enough money. We cut taxes this year because of it. And we pay our employees $15 an hour to start. Part-timers have sick time, vacation time. Full-timers have paid parental leave because, you can't take care of the borough if you can't take care of your families.
Right.
And our employees aren't unionized, but we only have like 5 of them. So it's like, we've done a decent amount of money, grants, things like that. We passed resolutions calling out anti-corruption measures needed for legislators taking gifts. We've called out for fair housing, fair districts, and also LGBTQ rights. We're one of the few rural municipalities that has a resolution supporting the LGBTQ plus community. We're pretty open-minded here, and it's about 15% more Republican here in Millheim. And we have all Democrats elected in every position. We're the only municipality in Center County that has, for anything from constable, tax collector, mayor, all of it. It's all Democrats. We do the work out here. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up the LGBTQ plus community, because one of my questions to you was, as a state rep, what could be done, or what do you think should be done to protect the community and also, make them feel included and involved?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's listening to people. I mean, that's a problem in rural communities in general. They don't feel listened to a lot. Obviously, in rural areas, it's a little bit different in the sense that a lot of people aren't exposed to things. So you have like two categories here of ignorance. You have the legitimate ignorance where they just don't know better and they use terms that aren't correct, but they're not. There's no malice. And then you have the willful ignorance where they have the malice. So you have an opportunity to teach, and you have an opportunity to correct, I guess is a way of putting it.
Yeah.
My experience has been, course correcting people. For the most part, they did. Some people just don't know better out where I live. And I'm not saying that to defend them. I'm saying it's just because it's true. As a local elected official and an elected official in general, we have to be the advocate for those people, to be willing to put ourselves as an ally to educate and course correct. So, it's not the job of members of the LGBT community to correct people all the time. It's exhausting. It's an exhausting process. So it's not fair to them. And so with that, it's my job would be to help inform, educate, and support. That's how it is in my point. Like, nobody in my immediate family that I'm aware of is a member of that community. However, I feel I want to be supportive as possible. And that means listening, advocating, working with, supporting, and pushing against stupid narratives that people have sometimes. I shouldn't say stupid, very ignorant and willfully so. But you have to push back on those. And that's probably the best way to be an ally. So for me, at the state level, making sure that people have the same equal rights for everybody, not just for selective groups.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Robert, because I heard many great points that you had just talked about, and one of them was exactly what you were saying. Some people just don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean? And so that was one of the biggest reasons why we even started our educational community civic series here at Western Power, is because people you just don't know. People don't know the power of their vote. People don't know the power of their voice. And so that stood out for me. So thank you so much for that. My next question to you is, how do you feel about, or what part can state rep, if any, play in strengthening unions?
Well, the first thing is they could stop trying to pass anti-union legislation. That'd be the first step. So, my opponent's Kerry Benninghoff. He's a majority leader. He's responsible for bringing up bills that are anti-union. He's done it a few times before.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head because it's through the years they've changed. It's the same type of bills though, where they try to make it a right to work state, blah, blah, blah. But it's really just, we're attacking unions because in my mind, unions are the backbone of the working class and the middle class. So, a legislator should make sure that we are protecting people's rights to unionize and support those rights. For myself, like my own personal experience is, one, I work at Penn State, so I work with a union. Okay, I am a manager, so I'm called the dark side of that. but I understand that it's equal pay for equal work, right? So if you're looking for equality, a union is supposed to be true equality for the same amount of work. So recently was the was it International Equality Pay Day. So I was like, well, unionize. Mm-hmm. If you want truly equal pay, unionize. And that think what unions have done for us. We established a minimum wage. It's given the Family Medical Leave Act. It's done 5-day work week. It's in the child labor. It's done a lot of good things. And so they're supporting that. You got to support those who support you. Unions tend to support Democrat candidates, generally speaking, because we tend to support working people. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, I don't like just putting out a press release or whatever. I want to actually do the work. So when Kellogg went on strike over in Lancaster, I drove 2 hours after I'd gotten donations of food and things for their food bank. So that way I made sure that their families were still getting fed, even though they were on strike.
Yeah.
And I went out and picketed with them for a few hours in the cold of the night, making sure they were okay. And that's the thing. It's just doing those type of things. Actions matter much more than words. Yeah. So you support those who support you. And just saying, oh, well, thanks, guys, and then walking away doesn't do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's just do things to actually support them. Mm-hmm. That's how you do it.
And a lot of what I was reading about you is exactly what you were just saying, putting into action, because you do a lot. It's
exhausting.
Yes, it is, but it has to get done. It has to get done, And so, a lot that I was reading, you step up on the front line a lot. So I wanted to make sure that our audience recognize that as well, because you really do a lot. So thank you so much for that. Now you mentioned. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said, thank you.
So you had mentioned that a little bit about your police department. And what were you saying now? So are you saying that your community have a strong relationship with the police department? And if not, why? And if so, what is working good?
Oh, actually, our town does not have a police department, and we don't have we are at the mercy of the state police, whether they come out or not. Okay. The response time is, I can't fault them because they're far away. But you're looking at around the 20 to 30 minute response time at best. So we do have constables is a thing in Pennsylvania. That's technically law enforcement, but a lot of them are not trained properly or gone through the training in order to be a potential law enforcement person. Yeah. So, I would prefer somebody not from the Wild West being a law enforcement person. But, the police now, I've been involved with some work over in the State College borough being supportive of groups that have done activism work there, trying to get mental health reform in with the police force, having like social workers, those type of people answer mental health calls. A lot of people don't know, and it depends on the municipality, but like mental health calls are roughly 10 to 15% of the calls that police get. And then in college towns, it's a lot of drunken disorderlies. And I'm not, it's just the way it is, because, college, that's that's kind of the experience that people have. But so if you take that into account, well, it's like, why is all their funding going to the police force itself and getting militarization of it with the police to some extent? Not every municipality is different. Like it's not cookie cutter. However, if you take out drunken disorderlies and mental health crises that happen, the state college police in general don't have that much. They don't really have that much crime comparatively. Now that's outside my district. There's also the Bellefonte police, which is in my district. They do a pretty good job. They try to coordinate and work. I would say they do more community type policing, I guess, where like they're not as assertive. I'm not saying one thing or another because I'm not a police officer. I don't know, but from what I've heard of the Bellefonte police, yes, they have a decent amount of them, but they seem to engage very well with the public, become informed with them, kind of get to know people, and don't escalate like some other police forces do. Lewistown, I don't know as well, and that's also in my district. I just know that they have trouble having enough funding for anything. And so they seem to be slightly overworked, stressed out, and like mental health, if they had mental health services there in conjunction with them, that'd probably help them out a lot. Or if they treated like mental health and substance abuse as public health issues instead of criminal issues, they have that support system there more. I think they'd be a lot more successful in the work that they do. But yeah, there's lots of opportunities for improvements there, especially in the mental health field. And I don't like the militarization trend that some of these police forces have. We don't really seem to have that problem in my district, which is good. But I do acknowledge it happens at the state level.
Okay. And I want to make sure, because I know when I asked you, who were you? Did you tell us what district you are running for and what you are running for?
Yeah, so I'm running in the 171st district. That is for State House, and that's in central Pennsylvania. So like, that blue dot, if you see that when they do the election night, that little blue dot that's middle of the state, it's literally Center County. And then I have a good part of that red spot that's underneath of it, on the like lower right part of it. That's Mifflin County. So that's why I have the eastern part of Center County and the most of Mifflin County.
Okay.
And I'm going against Majority Leader Kerry Benninghoff.
Okay. Because I don't think I introduced you as what you were running for, and so I want to make sure that our audience knows exactly what you're running for and what district you are running for. So thank you for that. My next question to you is about our criminal justice system. What part can a state rep play in I don't want to say that we're going to our system is broken, because our system is not broken. Our system is working exactly how it was designed to work. So what do you think a state rep could do to help with our criminal justice system in the way of where it's not such a disparity with the African Americans, or now here where I am, we make up 23% of the county, and yet we are the largest incarcerated. So what can a state rep do to bring more resources and not institutions, jails and institutions?
Well, if that's a loaded question, but it's a good one. And when you were saying the system is fair, I was like, I wouldn't say it's working the way it should. I was like, it's not working fair. That's how I would put it.
No. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but what I said is our system's not broken. It's working exactly the way that it was designed to work.
Yeah, and it's not a fair system. I want to acknowledge that right off the bat. So that comes with, that's a system that's, well, it's the criminal system in general. Like it's all parts of it where there's issues. So for me, I think a big part, the legislators make the laws, right? And then we also, like years ago, the GOP had pushed through mandatory minimums, which I think is a stupid idea. Every case is different. You know, if a single mother is like stealing food to feed her family, it shouldn't be the same as some rich white guy stealing like golf clubs or something like that. It's a silly example, but it's not the same situation. And so there shouldn't be the mandatory minimums. I think that's just costly and inefficient. Marijuana should be legalized. Like I don't see it's being done in most other states, and the reason it's not legal is because the timber industry, believe it or not, and the alcohol industry lobbied against it so hard. And it's just like I've never really seen any issues with it, and I just don't see how that's a problem. And that's usually used as an excuse to get people on other things. And it happens to be, you know, Black people to get hit the worst with that. And then, oh my gosh, there's so many things with that. So it's you know, you have also parole and probation reform, streamlining the pardoning process, which I'm part of the Center County's pardon project, which helps streamline the pardoning process, which can take up to 5 years for some people, if not longer, and trying to reduce it down to 1 year or 2 year to get, you know, a pardon and then get the expungement of the records. And that way people can get their licenses back. A lot of people don't realize how disenfranchised people are once they're in jail for a felony, and then they can't get any licensing to do, you know, so you can't have to be a barber. Right. Or you can't do cosmetology, any of that stuff. Anything needs a license, you can't get it. And so you're disenfranchising opportunities for a lot of people to be entrepreneurs or to be a part of a business. And that's one of those things where a lot of people don't realize the system doesn't really help people get back on their feet. And a lot of people are in jail because of, well, mental health issues, and substance abuse is a big part of that. It's criminalized instead of considered a public health issue. And so instead of treating people effectively, I mean, we see it in other countries, like Portugal is one of them, where they treat it like a health issue. You drop the prison rate by like 50%. It's an insane amount of drop. Mental health issues, you address that because, okay, you know, they have a chemical imbalance, they become more violent. Okay, well then if they're becoming more violent, that leads to potential assault, that leads to abuse. It could lead to other things. So we have to address these core issues of things. Some people it's financial opportunities. It's they're working their butts off for what? You know, and they're not getting anything for it, and they feel like they have no choice. So you asked a very loaded question there. The way to do criminal justice reform is to find the actual root causes of some of the issues, and also eliminate some of the impediments we have of getting people back on track. The support system of the jail system is not good to go back for reentry. Has it been getting better for some areas? Yes. Some counties are equipped to do that, but as a whole state, we're not the best at that. And we can definitely be better. Lord knows there's enough funding for it, but it's reentry is a big part too, because if someone goes out back into society and they don't have any opportunities, well, what are they going to do? They're going to go back to what they know and what they did to survive before. And it's just a vicious cycle. I'm not saying that's the case for all the time, but it happens.
But you know what? So, and I want to make sure that I point out that yes, that was a very loaded question, but you touched on all the core issues, and you also provided some solutions. So I want to make sure that I greatly appreciate that, because usually when we ask a loaded question, it doesn't get tapped into all the core of each. I mean, you went from mental health, you went from addiction, you went from financial, and these are the main core reasons why our men and women are locked up, you know. And so I want to thank you, and I appreciate that. I also want to ask you, now you have discussed a lot that's in your district. Is what was it that was the point you put the finger on that said, I'm stepping out and I'm running for this position?
For me, I'm in a small rural municipality, and there's always these groups that get othered in different ways. It's the LGBT community, formerly incarcerated people, Black people, women, it's a lot of different groups. that get othered. Rural people get othered too. It's different, but it's there.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is we get ignored a lot by state legislative people in general. There's some that are very good. Like even though Sharif Street's over in the Philly area, you know, he still comes out to rural areas and checks them out and does this stuff. He does a very good job considering it's not even his area. He'll come out and visit.
Yeah.
You know, and Scott Coughlin here in Center County, he does a good job with outreach, does a very good job with going to the rural communities and talking to people and engaging with them. But what I've noticed is that when it comes to getting anything done, like I am a very determined way, is the nice way of putting it. I'm very determined to get things done for my community on behalf of the community. And I worry that if there wasn't somebody like me with that tenaciousness, then nothing would be getting done out here, or very minimal stuff would be getting done. You know, getting high-speed internet out here was like pulling teeth and harassing companies. It was hard. It was so hard to get them to just come out. And you know, I got the governor's office involved. I got all kinds of different groups involved, and the state legislators weren't helpful. Like they didn't really do anything. And you know, and it's some companies are like, oh, well, it costs money, and it's like, no, we can't afford to do that. Come out here and do this. And it took a lot of effort for that. Luckily, we got a company to do that, and then they came out, and then that fostered competition. And now they started this like all these local companies are going. It's fine. It's great now.
Yeah.
But it was an exhausting, like probably 9 months of my life. Like even on Thanksgiving Day, I was talking to these people, and getting stuff done. And it was an exhausting process, but you have to find solutions and push for them. Okay, you can't change the world overnight. So what we got to do is make those steps. And the one thing I've noticed in rural areas is that sometimes to come up with solutions, we have to do things our own way. One of my constituents calls it redneck engineering. I whatever. So it's not like, okay, yeah, I guess you're right. But we find solutions to these problems. But the state neglects us. I knock in Mifflin County a lot, and legislative candidates have rarely ever knocked doors down there. There's a lot of doors I've gone to. No one's knocked their door for 40, 50 years. And these are Republican doors where this is Republican strongholds, and they're not being engaged with by their own party. So you have, you have in these red areas, you have Republicans taken for granted, and Democrats are afraid to engage with them because they think they're just going to get attacked for being Democrats. But you know, you have to have the tenaciousness to engage. You have to engage with folks, regardless of the views. And there's a few Republican peers of mine that I have that I can honestly say I respect them because they engage with people, and they're smart. They're willing to engage with me, and they know how I am. And you know, I respect them for the tenaciousness too. You know, but in all seriousness, you know, you have to engage with the people with different views. It's how you become better and stronger. And you know, I don't have to agree with it. But it gives me a better understanding where they come from, so I can better represent and support them. So I don't know if that really answered your question. I kind of got long-winded there. But you know, I just feel like people need to be truly represented.
Yeah. So thank you for that, because I always like to know, you know, what was it that because you know, running for a campaign is hard. You know what I mean? And I mean, when you had jumped on, you were just coming back from door. I mean, you were just coming back from out campaigning. So you know, and so that I always like to know, you know, what is it that made that push. So thank you so much for that. Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Couple more questions for you, like 2 more questions. My next question is, so what can a state rep do, or if anything, to protect to protect a woman's rights to make her own decisions about her own body?
So, you know, I kind of hit the lottery being like the genetic lottery of being a white male, like in terms of privilege. I want to acknowledge that right off the bat. Okay. So like, I acknowledge that. So for me, it's not I have a hard time telling a woman what to do with her body. Like I don't understand the logic in that reasoning. You know, I am very pro-choice. Like I think it's a woman's right to choose. It's a medical issue. It's a privacy issue. Like it's personally, I would not want a woman to do that. Like on a personal level. However, it's not my choice, and I understand that. And there's a lot of cases where it's not viable. So as a legislator, obviously I have to listen to all sides of the argument. I have to listen to that extent. However, If we're truly about individual freedoms and individual rights, and protecting the rights of all, then you would be a pro-choice person.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that really agitates me with pro-life people, it's misguided,
Mm-hmm.
like protection of life. Because if they were pro-life, they would be for universal health care. They would be for a minimum wage of at least $15 an hour, if not more. They would be for expanded benefits for the Social Security. They would be for making sure that education is properly funded. They would be for possibly universal basic income. Like, I'm just throwing out the things that if they're pro-life, they would truly be for these things. They would make it so adoption was an easier process and more affordable process. They would make it so there's childcare subsidies, universal pre-K, even, like I would say at least community college for free for people. If you're truly pro-life, you have to set up things to make it so people are successful in their lives, not just, hey, pump out this baby and then deal with the consequences. That's pro-birth. Pro-lifers in general are pro-birth. So that I have a problem. So as a legislator, you have to explain these nuances of these things to some people. And sometimes pointing it out that directly kind of snaps reality for some people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I did an op-ed a while ago, and it was about like how pro-life people aren't actually pro-life, they're pro-birth. Mm-hmm. And it got published surprisingly in the local paper, and it made some conservatives very mad at me. But they're like, but you do have a point. Some of them were like, you have a point there. And that's the thing. It's just like you have to sometimes push on those narratives in an uncomfortable way, so people understand, like, okay, you know what, maybe there is something to that.
Yeah.
Now, as a legislator, to get to your actual core of the question, legislators recently, the GOP tried to push through SB 106, which is a constitutional amendment, through this session. They're going to try to push it through next session then, which would ban completely. Well, it does a lot of things, but it completely bans abortions.
Mm-hmm.
So they say that it doesn't change anything. It does. If you look at the wording, it says like it restricts all rights relating to abortion. So to me, apparently we can decide that as a legislator, which I think, well, I shouldn't say we're deciding it. We're setting up for a constitutional amendment that'll pop up in a primary and an off year where turnouts were oppressed because they just won't come out for it.
Yeah.
So it's not really truly democratic, because if it was democratic, they do it during a presidential election where the turnout's the highest.
Yeah.
I digress. It's a whole different issue. But so, legislators, they can pass laws like that. We could codify Roe versus Wade if we wanted to. We could do that. We could get that. We don't have the votes to do that right now, but that's something that we could do as well. So in terms of rights to choose, I mean, if it's in the law, if it's a law, we could do it. That's as a legislator. And I know that sounds dangerous, because it is. But the one thing I do know about legislators is a lot of them do like power and influence.
Yeah. And
so in order to maintain that, they kind of need to do something that's not too far-fetched. So that's like the one thing is like, well, will that be enough to save us? I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds a little bit daunting, I know, but I mean that's why I'm going to run against leadership.
But
he's the guy who brings the bill to the floor. So yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for that, because also I want to thank you for, like you were saying, for on a personal level, that no, you don't believe in that, but as a human, you have no right to tell the next person what to do with their body. And Sunny on The View, on The View, the program The View.
Yeah.
So she had said it best when she was like, she said as spiritual as her religion, she does not agree with abortions, but how dare she push her religion onto the next person, So I really respected that. So thank you.
Well, it's, as a man, like I just don't, I don't know what I don't know. So I can't, for me personally, but the things I don't have to cope with the trauma or the stress of it. So it's like, for me, I can't. So obviously I respect a woman's right to that. That's their, and I support them having the choice. That's how I am. And that's where I'm always going to be. So.
Okay. Thank you for that. And my next question to you is, why you? Why should somebody vote for you?
Because probably one of the most determined individuals you'll meet. Again, all truth. Like it's the thing is, I've done a lot of things that have been considered to be impossible in a small rural municipality. Like we have Amish buggies, high speed internet. We have paid parental leave. We only have like 3 employees that would be eligible for that, but we have it. We pay $15 an hour, but we have a town of 900 people. Like it's one of those things where it's just, so we do solar. We have a solar array that covers all of our electrical use. We're a small town. Like it's just you can do things if you work towards it and do it the right way, and you embody and being genuine and being trustworthy. And the one thing that I get acknowledged from both sides on is how genuine and direct I am with people. I'm not going to mislead you. I'm not going to lie to you because there's no benefit to that. I'm going to tell you the truth, even to my own detriment at times, because I want people to know that I'm there for them. So I guess the one I do my best to be what I think a leader and a political person should be.
Yeah.
And we need that in office. And it doesn't have to be me. Like, I mean, I prefer to be me, obviously, but we need to have people that have that speak that truth that's theirs, and it's like Bernie Sanders. You can love him or hate him, but you know where that guy's at. He's been the same way for 50 years.
Yeah.
You know where that guy's at. And there's a lot of people that respect him. There's a lot of conservatives I know that would have voted for the guy because they like him. They're like, he really wants to help people in his way. I don't agree with him, but I think he honestly has good intentions with the community in mind. And that's what we need in the legislative body. And I don't see enough leaders like that in there. And especially from the GOP. I'm not saying that all the GOP members are bad. They're just not good. No, I'm kidding a little bit, but they're not as good as they could be. And they don't really embody the district the way they should. And we need to have somebody that fights for those people that are being othered. We want to have equal rights for all, not just for the people with money or the corporate backing. We need to have people be truly represented. So that's why me, because I try to embody that idea.
Thank you so much for that. And what I read, you're already doing a lot of what you want to do, but you can just do it on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
So thank you.
That's the hope.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So now, before we go, I want to ask you, if someone wants to get in touch with you, or if they may want to volunteer, they may want to donate, or they may want to talk to you about some things that we've discussed or their own questions, how can they get in touch with you?
So my website's pretty easy. It's zeiglerforpa.com. So it's ZEIGLERFORPA.com. On there's a form you can sign up and volunteer. There's a donate button there. You can also message the campaign. And then social media is actually the fastest way to communicate with me because I get all the notifications on my phone. And I'm too determined. I want to respond. So I leave the alerts on to my own detriment sometimes. But Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it's Zeigler for PA, at Zeigler for PA. And, that's the best way to do it. So you can always email me, but to be honest, the social media really is the fastest way for me because I get the alerts right on my phone.
Okay.
But yeah, the website's good too.
Well, thank you for that, and and I want to thank you again for joining us here at Western Power. PIIN, I think they had someone, but something unforeseen came up, so hopefully you'll be able to meet someone in the PIIN organization. But before we go, is there anything that you would like to say before we wrap it up?
I would say that, I wish people would take the time more nowadays to engage with people with differing views. It's like, I door knock a lot of different doors, and, I go to Trump supporters, and people are like, oh, well, they're a lost cause. I was like, well, thinking that way is why Trump got in to begin with. And, I will say, honestly, Trump supporters are the ones who offer me water first, like when I'm walking out in the heat. And it's been an eye-opening experience to see where they're coming from with some things, because sometimes they just wanted something so badly that they did anything they could to get to it. And seeing that and understanding that, I'm not saying that's all of them, but for a chunk of them. And, and then understanding why people are a certain way. Everyone has a story, right?
Right.
And it's like, so they have I call it like a book. Everyone has a book in their life. So it's like, I would hope my interactions are adding some good pages or sentences to that book. I would hope.
Yeah.
And so maybe if we think of that approach with every conversation we have, and it's like, don't get me wrong, there's some people that it won't matter.
Yeah.
but having that open-mindedness initially, at least, and to engage with those people, I think will go a long way. And then maybe we can get back to where people actually work instead of just yell at each other and then try to do their own things.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it's a little bit kumbaya-ish, but it seems to be okay.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you to our guest, Robert Zeigler. Thank you so much for coming. If you have any questions, he gave out his information of how to get in touch with him. And like he said, social media is one of the best ways and the quickest ways. I want to thank you from Western Power. And I want to thank everyone for listening, and look out for our next cohorts coming up. Thank you so much. And with that,